Maqasidic Tafsir.
Where should I begin when I'm starting at the end? Pursuing the higher aim, learning the meaning of every page. Where should I begin when I'm starting at the end?
Another addition to your Islamic education, Maqasidic Tafsir, Healing and Governance, The Transformative Path of Sabah as-Tiwal, written by Dr. Karim Abuzaid. Join Ustada Laila Nasheeba every Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9:30 p.m., streaming all major platforms, channel Sooner Follower.
Wassalat, wassalamallah, wa rasulallah. I'd like to welcome everybody to our Maqasidic Tafsir class. And this is a class whereas we are studying from the third volume of the Maqasidic Tafsir series written by Dr. Karim Abuzaid. And this book, which is the third book of this series, focus on Islamic governance or Islamic government. And we've been reviewing the Caliphate of Islam, how it started off, how leadership in Islam started off after the death of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so let's put the PowerPoint up on the screen. And for those of you who are not watching me from YouTube, please open up a tab on your cell phone to the YouTube and go to my channel Sooner Followers, all one word, and open up the live stream, my live stream tab, so that way you can see the PowerPoint that I'm getting ready to place up on the screen. And please feel free to take screenshots of the PowerPoint so that way you can print it out at the end of the class from your cell phone, and that way staple it all together so you have the pages, the verses of the Quran, the hadiths and whatnot, so you can review everything. And we're going to cover chapter 2.3, which speaks about how to navigate between the present and envision the future of Islamic governance. And I'm going to start us off by giving you a quiz to catch us up to date to where we are now in the book. So everyone pay attention. The last time we met, we went over we did a brief summarization of the Caliphacy of Islam. Let's look at the first question here. The first transition of the Caliphate was known as, which of the following? Was it known as the Umayyad period? Or was it known as the Abbasid period in our history? Or the Ottoman period of our history? Or the Rashidun period or era or transition of our history as Muslims? Which answer is correct? This is to catch us up to date. This will summarize what we discussed last week. Who can answer? The first.
Was it Rashidun?
Okay, she said, well, the first transition was known as the Rashidun transition. Do you guys agree or disagree with her answer?
I agree.
Okay, good job. This was the Rashidun period. And who were the caliphs during that period? Does anyone know? Who were the leadership? Who held the positions of leadership during that period of our history as Muslims? We should know the history of Islam. Who held the leadership positions during that period? Anyone? For those of you, you can type on the screen. The Zoom room can answer on the mic. The rest of you can type on the screen. Who held the positions of leadership during our that transition of our history, during the Rashidun period of our history? Who held those positions of leadership over us? The Rashidun. Go ahead. Every Muslim on the earth should know that was those answers.
I forgot his name, but
who was the first leader of the Muslim nation? None of you know who the first leader of the Muslim nation was?
Abu Bakr.
Was he the first leader of the Muslim nation? Come on, guys. Oh, come on. How are you a Muslim? Who was our first leader?
Oh, the Prophet Muhammad.
Oh, who was the? Oh, can y'all?
Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Thank you. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was the first leader of the Muslims. Who was the second of the Rashidun period? Go ahead.
Abu Bakr.
Abu Bakr, radiallahu anha. Who else was there of the Rashidun era? Who?
Umar.
Okay, wait a minute. Can we do it in some order? Hey, Muslims. Oh my God. Do y'all not see why the war is obvious? Allah is just. If you Muslims can't give us the leaders, the first leaders of Islam, we are justified in being taken out. Come on, answer with certainty of faith. Who are the first leaders of the Rashidun period? Somebody give me all the answers and just give them in order with certainty.
Then Abu Bakr, then Umar, then Uthman and Ali.
Yeah.
Okay, was that the first? Was that it for the Rashidun period? That's it?
All I know.
Okay, I want somebody to give me some certainty of faith. Just tell me yes or no. That's all I know is not certainty.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Okay, so the first leaders of the Rashidun period of Islam, okay, that was the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, followed by Abu Bakr, followed by Umar, followed by Uthman, followed by Ali. That's the Rashidun period. That's the Rashidun period. Every Muslim on this planet Earth, when that question is posed, you should be able to rattle those names off your head without hesitation, without having to think about it, without saying, that's all I know, without saying, without stammering, and they should be in order. That's called certainty of faith. That's knowing your deen. If you Muslims on planet Earth can't answer that question there, then you are justified in being the reason why Allah is cleansing the earth of you. Because we're messed up. This is being Maqasidic. Everything Allah does is justified. Because guess what? If I were to go to any Muslim country and ask this question, the answers I get would be stutters and stammers and I don't knows. If I were to walk the earth here, anywhere, most Muslims can't answer this. And we sitting around asking questions like I was asked at the end of the last class, Sister Laila, can I make Umrah or can I make Hajj and go to the Kaaba and stand up and scream and holler and shout about how unjust the government is and call out the names of government officials because they ain't stopping the war in Gaza, as if they had the power to do it anyway. Now do y'all see? Y'all need to stop all this blaming Allah and blaming people for what Allah is doing. You are the reason why. You are the reason why Allah is doing what he's doing. And he is just. He proves it every day on my website. Every day when you come to these classes and I give a quiz, you guys, the way y'all answer these questions is the proof as to why Allah has sent this war. And it didn't begin with Gaza. This war began in the early 2000s. You are late. It's just spreading and it's past Gaza. Stop watching TV. Turn off your television and go pick up some Islamic books and find a teacher to educate you. You don't know nothing about what's happening in the world, and you don't know nothing about your religion. You're just a reason why we are being obliterated by Allah, not by Israel, by Allah. He's cleansing this earth. Like he cleansed it during the time of the Prophet, like he cleansed it during the time of Abu Bakr, like he cleansed it during the time of Umar. Allah ain't got time for stupidity. Allah ain't got time for silliness. And I ain't either. Okay? Let's see how we do. Answer these questions with certainty of faith. Answer these questions with conviction. Answer these questions like you know your deen. Answer these questions like a believer. All right? Let's see. Next question. Now, we also talked about the Umayyads. The Umayyads, they were overthrown. Who overthrew them? They were overthrown by who? The Abbasids, the Rashidun, or the Ottomans? A lot of you ask me about the history of Islam. I'm teaching you the history of Islam when you come to my classes. Okay. So, okay, the Umayyads. You learn the history of Islam from the Hadiths. I keep telling y'all, there ain't no book. You can't go and buy a book on the history of Islam. You have to learn the Quran and then learn the authentic Hadiths. That's the history. So, the Umayyads, they were overthrown by which of the following? The Abbasids, the Rashidun, or the Ottomans? Which one overthrew the Abbasids? I mean, the Umayyads. Okay. Mina said the Abbasids. Sakina said the Abbasids. Jamila said the Ottomans. Who do you guys, excuse me, who do you guys agree with? The Abbasids or the Ottomans? Exactly, you know that it wasn't the Rashidun. Okay, the correct answer is the Abbasids. The Abbasids, good job. The Abbasids were the ones that overthrew the Umayyads. The Umayyads. So, which one of them came after the Rashidun? Can you remember, guys? We know that the Rashidun were the first rulers, the first leaders. In fact, the Rashidun, they were the ones that the Prophet told us to follow. The Rashidun were the best because that's Umar and Abu Bakr and Ali and Uthman. Those are the first four caliphs. They are the ones that we follow. They were the best of the best. We don't go no further as a daya. We don't teach you about anyone other than them. The rest of them don't really matter. We may talk about Umar's grandson. Okay, other than that, we don't go no further than that. They were the best of the best. But which one came after the Rashidun? Did the Abbasids come after them, or the Umayyads, or the Ottomans? Who can remember? Which ones came after them? Which ones?
The Umayyads.
Exactly. Good job. It was the Umayyads. The Umayyads came after the Rashidun. And does anybody remember who were the Umayyads? Who led them? Who was the first of the Umayyads? Can y'all remember which of the companions was the first of the Umayyads? Which companion was the first of the Umayyads? Which of the companions was the first of the Umayyads? All you have to remember is one companion's name. Who was the first of the Umayyads? Can y'all remember which companion that was? Yeah, he was one of the originals. Yes, Brother Bilal. Do you remember who he was? Exactly. Muawiyah. Muawiyah. Exactly, Brother Bilal. You got it right. Muawiyah. That was the Umayyads. Yeah, he was the one that sought revenge for the murder of Uthman. Exactly. It was all about him seeking revenge for the murder of Uthman. Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, and we're going to cover that when Mukhtar does the caliphate. When Mukhtar does the caliphate of Uthman radiallahu anha, you will learn all about that. Exactly. But yeah, Muawiyah was the first of the Umayyads. Yeah, when he declared himself the caliph of Syria. Yes, he was the first of the Umayyads. Exactly. Exactly. That's the only one you need to remember. Yeah, and yes, Muawiyah. Yes. Okay. All right. Let's look at the next question. Good job, Brother Bilal, on that. Now, look at this question. The Abbasids were discontent with the Abbasids were discontent with the Umayyads because they were into heredity rule, or because they expanded Islam. Which answer is correct? In other words, why did the Abbasids overthrow the Umayyads? Was it because they were sick and tired of their monarchy, their ruling based on heredity? Or was it because they were tired of them expanding Islam? Who can remember? People in Zoom, Mina, you guys in Zoom, y'all remember? Why did the Abbasids overthrow them?
The first one?
Huh?
The first one?
The first one, you say? What's the answer y'all came up with?
Yeah.
I can't understand y'all. What are y'all saying in there? Your mic.
I said the first one. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, the first one, exactly, because that was the problem with the Muawiyah and those that came after them. After Muawiyah, it was his sons and them, and Marwan and all of them. They were into heredity. They basically turned the caliph into a monarchy. When one of them was killed, then their sons took over there and all of that. And so the Abbasids were sick of that. They were like, no, this ain't no monarchy. This ain't no, we're not no monarchy. So they were discontent with that part of their government. Everything was based on nepotism, putting people in office who were your relatives, putting people in office based on family and all of that. So that's what caused them to overthrow them. Okay. Look at the next question. the center of leadership. And by the way, what was the center of leadership under the Umayyad rule? Did they rule from out of Mecca? Did they rule from out of Medina? Or where did they rule from? Can anybody remember? What was the center of leadership? Where did they rule from, the Umayyads? What country did they rule from under? Can anybody
Syria.
remember? Good job, Mina. They ruled from out of Syria. Exactly. Muawiyah, remember, he declared himself the Caliph of Syria. When the Umayyads were in power, they ruled from Syria. The Rashidun, where did they rule from? What was their center of rule? Where did the Prophet Muhammad and them rule from?
Medina.
Exactly. Common sense. Medina. Medina was the center of rule for them. Okay, but the Umayyads, they ruled from out of Syria. So what about the Abbasids? The center of leadership under the Abbasids shifted to where? Did they rule from Baghdad? Or did they rule from Syria? Or did they rule from Mecca? Where did the Abbasids rule from?
Baghdad.
Good job. The Abbasids ruled from out of Baghdad. These are your Persians. The Iranians. Exactly. Exactly. Y'all can see leadership is shifting from Mecca, from Medina to Syria, now to Persia, which is now known as Iran. Exactly. Good job. Last question. Who influenced Islamic legal and educational systems? Was it the Abbasids, the Ottomans, or the Umayyads? Which one of those caliphates influenced the Islamic legal and educational systems? The Abbasids, the Ottomans, or the Umayyads? They made advances in law and education. Who was that? Was it the Abbasids, the Ottomans, or the Umayyads?
Abbasids?
Huh? No, not
Abbasids?
not the Abbasids. Think about it. The legal system. Was there a strong legal system back in the Abbasid period? Or the Umayyad period? Those are early periods. Or the Ottoman period?
I think the Ottomans.
Exactly. And how long did the Ottoman period last? The Ottoman period lasted until 1924. So that should tell you that's the 19th century. 21st century, the Ottomans. And that's when the caliphate ended. That was the end of Islam's heyday. That was it. The caliphate ended in 1924 with the Ottomans. That's when the Islam went into little things like the Mahmeds with Egypt, little territories like that, and they focused on legal stuff. The law is, legal, Islamic legal Sharia stuff and educational stuff, instead of other stuff. So that's it. That was your brief history of Islam. That's it, of leadership under Islam. Okay, remember we talked about during the Umayyads history, the Abbasids was known as the golden age of Islam. They focused on arts, okay? The Umayyads focused on medicine and stuff like that, okay? Each period focused on astronomy, science, and stuff like that. The Abbasid period was science, mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and all of that type of stuff. You want to learn the history of Islam? There's no book that you can buy. You want to know the history of Islam? You have to learn the hadiths. That's why I specialize in hadith. Hadiths is the history of Islam, the explanation of the Quran and everything. You're not going to learn nothing till you learn those hadiths. Too old to learn them now. You got to learn them when you're young. All right. So that brings us up to date to now. The caliphate was abolished or ended in 1924. That was it. The Ottoman Empire was the end of it. And then we talked about the hadith of Ibn Abbas. Can anybody remember that hadith where the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam talked about the caliphs of Islam, how it would begin with prophethood and truth, and then leadership and truth, and then it would go end up like it is now, years of leadership of monkeyhood. Remember that hadith? People would be like monkeys. Well, we're in the period of people being like monkeys. In other words, no leadership, just a bunch of monkeys. Okay? No good leaders, just people running around like monkeys. That's what we're dealing with now. There will be no caliphate. There will be no leadership until the Mahdi comes. And that's a long, long time from now. Okay, we're nowhere near that. And then after him, Jesus. Jesus will come back as the leader of the entire world. And after Jesus, that's it. Okay, but we're a long, long ways from both of those things. Okay, but right now we're in the period of people being like leaders, being like monkeys that the prophet spoke about. And that's not a reference to Jews. That's a reference to us and our leaders. Okay, so now let's get to today's lecture, which speaks about today's leadership, how we have advanced today, how we've advanced today since the end of the caliphate, until the Mahdi comes back. Let's take a look at these hadiths. And again, for those of you who are watching me on a program other than YouTube, open up a tab on your cell phone to YouTube and click on my channel, Sunnah Followers, and go to the live stream so you can see the PowerPoints I'm getting ready to show now. Okay, which I am showing now. And this is the, yeah, there it is. Y'all can see it now. Yeah. Okay, so contemporary applications of Islamic government principles are abundant in the modern world. Whenever Muslims gather under the traces of sincere government, the endeavor to weave timeless principles of Khalifa into the fabric of contemporary government reveals a dynamic interplay between tradition and modernity, okay? Various Islamic movements and states have tried to adapt Islamic principles to the context of nation states and global challenges. And that's what we're going to speak about today. Today, what I'm going to do is I'm not speaking about non-Islamic countries because, you know, we don't impose Islamic laws. I want this to be understood. We do not impose Islamic laws into non-Islamic countries. America is not an Islamic country. The UK is not an Islamic country. As the Prophet Muhammad said, our laws are for us. Non-Muslims' laws are for them. So what we're going to talk about today are the Muslim countries and how different Muslim countries here in the world today, how there is no caliphate And like I said, there will be no leader for the Muslims until the Mahdi comes. And that's a long, long time for now. That we are nowhere near him. The signs of him are nowhere near. We are just now in the beginning of the major signs. And that's the war against Islam. And we haven't even reached the peak of that. The war has not yet reached the entire earth yet. When the war reaches the entire earth, when every part of the earth is going through what's happening in the Sudan and Gaza, and when the entire earth has been at war for 7 years, and everybody is being devastated, that's when we start worrying about the Mahdi, but that's not happening yet, okay? So we're a long ways from that, from the Mahdi. So that ain't happening. So what we're going to speak about now is there is no Khalifa, and there won't be until then. But we do have Muslim populated countries. And what we're going to speak about today is how Muslim countries around the world have adopted Islamic laws within their countries. We don't apply Muslim laws in non-Muslim countries. For example, America is not a Muslim country. It's a Judeo-Christian country, and our laws of government have nothing to do with this country. We don't even apply them here. So we're going to speak about Muslim countries. So let's take a look, for example, at Malaysia. We're going to look at Malaysia's Islamic model as an Islamic model. Now, Malaysia, it presents a compelling case study of integrating Islamic principles into national economic policies. This country has pioneered, that means it's one of the first countries to develop Islamic finance, which operates on the principles of profit and loss. In other words, Malaysia is the first Islamic country that doesn't deal with interest. That's the good thing. Malaysia is a riba-free country, and it aligns with the Khalifa's emphasis on economic justice and welfare. So that's the good thing about Malaysia. No interest. They have a Sharia compliant banking system that illustrates the practical application of Islamic economic ethics in a modern financial landscape, which offers a model for equitable wealth distribution and financial inclusivity. And this approach produces a positive economic growth. It produces financial stability, and also it underscores the relevance of a Khalifa principles in addressing the economic challenges. So again, this is a pioneer Islamic country. It's one of the few that has Sharia compliant banking and no riba. You buy a house, you buy property there. You ain't got to worry about no interest. So that's an example, you know, of a good thing, of something that the Khalifa did offer. Malaysia has that. It's the only Islamic country that has that. Saudi Arabia doesn't have that. The Emirates don't have that. Egypt doesn't have that. Okay. Also, another example of something that the Khalifa had is another country, Indonesia. Indonesia has a shura. This is something good. Now, Indonesia is the world's largest Muslim majority country. Even though technically, Indonesia technically is not considered a Muslim country, but it's a Muslim majority country. They are a democracy, but they have a shura. They have incorporated a shura, or which is a council, into their government. And this council tolerates, is religious. It tolerates all religions. It's all about social justice. And this reflects how a Khalifa respects all religions, and how a Khalifa worked hard to allow all religions to coexist, you know, out of justice and fairness. We don't force our way of life on anyone. Remember, Umar was all about the dhimmi, all about making sure that the Christians and the non-Muslims were protected, were allowed to pay the tax and be protected to live in the Muslim land, that their rights were protected. Well, Indonesia has a shura that protects the rights of religions. Even though it's not really a Muslim country, it's a large Muslim majority country. So that's something good about Indonesia. And then we look at a country like Turkey. Turkey is a Muslim country, and Turkey is good with refugees. This is something else that the Khalifa was good about. You know, Islam teaches us to take in refugees, you know, and be good, you know, to be humanitarian and embody Islamic principles of brotherhood and compassion for those in need. Well, Turkey is a great example of that. You know, they provide shelter, aid, and opportunities to the Syrians and others who were displaced due to conflict. Turkey has an open door policy for refugees, showing allegiance, which we talked about today, giving support, help, and aid and empathy to your Muslim brothers and sisters who are in need of it. So even though we have no caliphate, Turkey's policies on refugees, you know, is a great example of a caliphate with that. You know, how they even have taken in people from Gaza and Yemen and other places, you know, who are in need of help. Okay. So even though we don't have a caliphate anymore, and we won't have one until the Mahdi and Jesus comes, you know, still we do have aspects of a caliphate that exist in different countries. Like I said, with Malaysia's Sharia banks, you know, Malaysia's riba-free economy, Turkey's El Walad, and, you know, taking in refugees, and Indonesia's looking out for the dhimmis and all of that. These cases highlight the complexities and the potential applications of the principles of a caliphate within modern nation-state systems. And they demonstrate the achievements and the challenges of integrating Islamic government ideals into contemporary political and economic contexts. And by adapting these age-old principles to meet today's needs, these examples offer great insights into the enduring relevance and flexibility of Islamic government concepts, which can suggest great pathways, you know, in the application of diverse contemporary settings.